for October 16th. Welcome, everyone. And we have nothing on the agenda, but we have some non-agenda items to talk about, such as the Inclusive Playground update. You want to give the update since Bailey and Brandy could not be here?
Yeah, I did invite them. They both, I heard back from Brandy that said that she had a prior engagement, but the playground is installed. Phase 1 is complete. So the playground is up and operational, which is good. Phase 2, the material for phase 2 has been ordered. However, that won't come in probably until after the new year. And then all phases 1, 2, and 3 should be completed somewhere around April is what we're expecting. As soon as the material's in and we're ready to have time for installation. We're also talking about an unofficial phase 4, which would be the beautification of the area. Maybe the installation of the bricks that people have purchased and the maybe a plaque or something memorializing the efforts. But all of that is still to be determined. We actually haven't put a fundraising goal on that or anything. That's just us talking at the moment. But I did want to let you know that phase 1 is complete. The playground is installed and operational. So it's out of Ben Franklin parking lot and installed in the back here. So small victory, but
they got it all funded, right? It's
if they haven't funded the entire thing, they're very, very close. I think if it comes up to it, and we just got another, the United Way is willing to make another donation as well through the Community Impact Foundation or the Community Impact Committee. So it might not going to be a great amount, but they're willing to make a donation too, which will help maybe offset some of those costs for phase 4 if we can do that, which is great. So
is that with or without our contribution?
That's with. What that might be able to do is offset some of that. Mm-hmm. So that maybe like that, the United Way's donation can maybe free up some of that our money that we could then use for phase 4, if that makes sense.
Because I like the idea of a dedication plaque or something like that. Once it's all said and done, and if we have money and our contribution left over, I think we should do that.
I agree, and we talked about making it accessible is really going to require some sort of paved surface from the one entrance to the playground, and the bricks that they've been selling, I think, would be a nice edging for that. I don't think bricks being the sidewalk would be appropriate because. Well, not only are they slippery, but they shift in this weather, and then somebody with a walker or something's going to get stuck. So I think making the bricks either part of the plaque or the edging for the playground, and then having a paved surface out there is going to be required if we're really going to make it accessible.
Can I suggest that we reach out to them and see if maybe they'd be willing to do that for Ben Franklin as well as Eisenhower?
Who's them?
Brandy and
absolutely.
Because they did such a great job on this. Getting it at all the schools should be a priority because
I don't know if you planned this, but it's a perfect segue into item number 2. Item number 2 is this foundation that we talked about. When I came on as the superintendent, I said that I think a foundation is something that we have to get started here. This whole situation, if we would have had a foundation established that was earning interest for us, we could have written a check for this playground. You know what I mean? Right. And that's so planning for the future. We need to do some fundraising efforts through the Community Foundation of the Alleghenies. We have a foundation set up. That money gets invested. It earns money. So we want to put together some fundraising initiatives that happen every year that the money goes right into that foundation to fund those projects at Ben Franklin, to fund it at the future Ike or whatever that might come up, whatever that issue might be. And I talked to Bailey about whether or not she'd be willing to serve on that committee, and she and Brandy both said yes. So yes. I have my first 2 community volunteers, and they're perfect because they're such hustlers, and they've proven that they're passionate about helping this community. So they'll sit on that committee. I'd like some maybe board members who are familiar with it, but so that'd be great.
Hey, I don't have anything to do after November, so I'm good.
Seriously, that's what we'd like to do is maybe, put together a committee of 10 to 12 people that really, set a goal and establish a couple of different ideas. We have a great idea that Sean came up with over at Ben Franklin about a Hall of Fame. Instead of retirement dinner, make a Indiana Area School District Hall of Fame and just recognize people who have given multiple years of service or whatever it is as a celebration, and then have a basket raffle and, make it a fundraiser as well, have a band, sell tickets, those kinds of things.
That's wonderful. idea.
Celebrate people at the same time, raise money for the foundation, a mailing campaign to alumni that might be, might have the means to write a check and support the community, even if they don't live here anymore. Those kinds of things. A lot of school districts do it. I don't know if we never did, or we just didn't, if it fizzled out, but it's something that I think, might not ever come to fruition in my time here, but, 10, 15 years down the road here, maybe someone can just write a check the next time they need an inclusive playground or whatever the project is.
That would be awesome.
And I think Sean would be one you want to reach out to be on that.
100%. He's already on the committee. I already told him. I've only told him, sir.
He's always got great ideas. He got connections to help do the fundraising.
Yeah, we're gonna have a band. We're gonna put a band together, a teacher band.
Perfect. That's right. It'd be great.
And,
A lot of the students would come out just to see that.
right? It might be funny, So,
No, that sounds absolutely wonderful.
but yeah, and Bailey and Brandy, they took a minute to think about it, but they wrote back and said they'd be honored to do it, and they're excited about it. So I think that'll give us an engine to that thing. So,
Yeah, no, it sounds wonderful. And then we have the NAACP Freedom Banquet.
we've been approached by the NAACP to see if we would consider supporting their banquet, their annual banquet for their foundation. They call it the Freedom Fund, but it's essentially what we're talking about here, where they do a fundraiser every year. They have a guest speaker that comes in. This year it's Tim Stevens is their guest speaker. They've asked us if we would sponsor a table. I just wanted, I have some money in that superintendent account that the board has set aside. I'm happy to buy a table out of that account if the board, if they saw, if you supported it. We do this for the Chamber of Commerce. We do it for the United Way. We do it for different organizations throughout the community. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that, if we don't buy a table, we'd at least like to sponsor some seats for our kids to attend, and maybe
I
some
think-
faculty.
Buying a table would be great. I would love to attend, and I'm fairly certain there's a couple more people who wouldn't mind attending.
Absolutely. I think we should get a table.
Yeah.
I'd be all for the sport.
I think for $650, we can buy 10 seats at the
I'm
table.
probably gonna go, but not sit at the table, because my wife already mentioned that she wanted to go, so
Okay, great.
All right.
maybe we
Well,
can
then-
free up some student seats at our table.
Yeah, and last year we supported 2 students. We sponsored 2 students to go who helped, who wanted to attend. I think we could still do that. And then through the table, I think the high school actually raised some money to support those students. So if they support the students and we buy a table, I'll have a niece arrange it so that you guys can all get invited. And if you guys don't fill the seats, then we'll fill it with administrators or faculty. And we'll go from there. That's November 18th at the Country Club at 5:30. I printed off some flyers for you. I didn't do them all in color, just so because Jared was watching.
No, I think that sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, then I will move forward. And then I just wanted to give you an update. I met with what we're calling the Superintendent's Advisory Council. When I first came on, we talked about being responsive to different groups of stakeholders. And one of the stakeholder groups was the teachers. And the teachers, to have that direct connection, clear, transparent communication where we can have safe conversations, non-evaluative conversations, have a feedback loop. I met with several representatives. There were representatives from each building and a couple of union leadership members there. And we just sat in this room, Jared and I sat in this room, and we talked about my vision, my goals as superintendent and how they are perceived by the teachers. And then the teachers shared some concerns and opinions and ideas that they had as well. It was a really productive meeting. We're putting together a joint communication that we're going to send out to the staff that just basically say, look, we hear you, we hear this, we hear this. Some of the answers have to be no, right? For example, one of the things that the teachers brought up was the need for additional staff. I told them, and I spoke for you, I said, I think if the board had a blank check, they would hire more staff. I think they would all advocate for that, but we have to balance staff and finances, and our finances right now aren't in the perfect state. So some of those answers are going to be no, not right now.
I'm
But
sorry to interrupt you just a second.
sure,
You've got the lower chair, just so
Okay.
you know. Talk.
the low rider.
I just didn't want to just
You
sit
didn't
him.
want him to notice that he was gonna sit on the floor.
Yeah, I didn't.
I told her
She
that.
said, she said
thought
you
she
did.
was- She thought she was ragging you, gonna pick on you, and I just laughed at her.
Yeah, this is my preference.
Okay, sorry. Eric.
No, not at all.
Um,
So they wanted to, that was just one example of some of the things that they brought up. And we're
Yeah.
just having open, honest conversations with them. So one of our goals was shared ownership of this issue, right, of the direction of the district. So having them there to give me the feedback from the teachers, they put a survey out, got some, opinions and perspectives from teachers, shared that with me. We shared our perspective in return so that everyone's on the same page. We're going to put together that communication and send it out. We're going to meet quarterly is our plan. And then one thing that they came up with too that I support wholeheartedly is some sort of evaluation too. And Dr. Regan and I talked about this before, having people like my principals evaluate my performance and have and have the teachers evaluate principal performance and not in a evaluative like they're their boss, but just give them feedback for growth. And that kind of thing would improve culture. And so we're going to work on that as well so that we have those feedback loops that we can constantly be growing and moving forward. So I'm excited about that advisory council and where it can go. So I just want to let you guys know that it was happening.
Was there any issues other than staffing that they brought up that we should discuss or address? Or?
Time, I think the gods of money and time are the two that we always have to make sacrifices to. And I told them that, I can't create time, but, and I'm partly responsible for the teachers their job is very, very difficult and they keep getting more difficult as the time goes on. Student behaviors are getting more explosive. The demands of the job are much higher. Like no longer are we just allowed to just shut our doors and teach. Now we have data that we look at. We have pre-tests we look at. We have progress monitoring that we expect them to do. Then when they go to data team meetings in the morning with it, that it's our time, it's structured time, but it used to be planning time. So we've been taking more time away from them in raising the bar, which we have to do, right? That's our job is to do the best job we can. For example, I actually came to you guys and argued for the changing of the bus schedules so that we could have more instructional time. Well, one of the points that they brought up was having all of that time with what they call FaceTime, where they're constantly on with kids, like wears them down faster, which we're going to work on ways that we can do that. When we worked with NCEE, we talked about other high performing systems have common planning time and time where teachers can work as professionals to reflect on their practice and improve their practice and do research and those kinds of things. And we don't have that built in here. So we're going to find ways that we can do it. Ms. Eisenman, for example, did a great job. She staggered how many teachers actually go out and go on recess duty when they're outside. We don't need 5 teachers. We can send out a para and 3 teachers and 2 math teachers can go in and plan together for that 35 minutes that the kids are outside, which is great. It's something we can find in the margins to help satisfy that need and, not really hurt the system at all, so we're going to keep working on things like that. And we're going to work on it together. We're going to share the problems. We're going to, look for shared ways to find solutions to it and just keep those communications open. And when we have to say no, I don't think they mind the answer is no, as long as they understand the why behind it. And that was the one thing that came out was our communication. Although we think we communicate well, it's somewhere between the initial point and where it gets muddied a little bit. So improving those lines of communication is very important. So we're going to keep working at that.
I find out in representing a lot of workers, they're afraid sometimes to tell you something, but if you don't tell you, you think you're doing it right, unless they tell you and you can look at it and say, well, I thought I was going, I don't think everybody's going the wrong way on purpose.
Right.
Sometimes you need to speak up and let them know, let's look at this different. And it
Correct.
makes a big difference.
Correct. And it was good for us to hear the feedback in a non-threatening way too. It's not a union negotiation. It's not, they're going to keep us on, hold us to some contract or, it's not a building labor management meeting. It's just sharing of ideas. And so it was nice. We learned a lot. We actually went way over the time. We had scheduled 90 minutes and we were there for almost 3 hours. So there was a lot to be shared. And I think we took a giant step in the right direction. And then we agreed that we were going to share the communication out, which was important to me because when you ask me tough questions about things like adding staff or adding time or those things, like, I'm not going to say, well, this is the answer. I'm going to say, look, we're all owning this. We're going to agree that this is the message we send out. So the message is clearly communicated, especially because, communication is always the tough part. So I actually wrote an email and sent it out to the committee. The committee's giving me feedback, and then I'm going to share it with my principals on Wednesday, and then we're going to share it with the staff right after that. So,
What staff do they, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what staff do they feel are lacking?
what staff do they feel? I think they say that they bring up at the high school they've lost, can't remember how many teachers, like 20 teachers over the last 10 years or something like that in different areas. I think that the class sizes are always a concern. They talk about classes at the 4 or 5 buildings getting to like 25, 26, which is within the guidelines. But, it's a lot. I don't think it sounded to me like more time was more the concern, if I had to get down to it. I mean, the conversation went ranged all over to different staff. And I told them flat out, I said, we will continue to advocate for staff where appropriate, and we will continue to, to not where appropriate. We have to balance the budget and put the students in the best situation for success. And the teachers have to be in the best situation for success if the students are going to be successful. So, I think just hearing them out and listening to what their ideas are, they do have a different perspective than we have, right? I mean, oftentimes we look at the bottom line and we don't see the people, and they see the people and they don't often see the bottom line. So I think just having those conversations is a way to bring it to everybody's attention and, make sure the word is spread.
Yeah, I think it was more about planning time.
Absolutely.
The kids are arriving at 8:30 in the morning and they are literally
Here till 4.
walking out the door at 5 till 4, and the teachers are done at 4 o'clock. So there's certainly over the past couple of years a huge increase in that face-to-face time.
And that was me. I did
More at
that.
the elementary level
That's-
than maybe at the secondary level.
100%. And that's it. And I did that out of the logic of, I want my highly trained expert teacher to be in front of that kid as much as humanly possible, but not at the expense of wearing them out, And I think what we did made a lot of changes at the elementary and not as much at the high school, but the high school feels the pinch because we've cut some staff there. We've, lost some, we didn't replace staff. So it's,
When I came on the board, though, the student teacher ratio at the high school was less than 10.
It's-
We were way overstaffed
Oh.
at that level. We were staffed for 1,200 kids, not 800 kids. And so we have lost staff.
mhm.
And because we probably lost 20% of the staff that we had a decade ago. But that means that the existing staff has to wear more hats and do more things. But, we don't have the kids we have.
Yeah.
Is the elementary contractual day 8 to 4?
8:05.
8:05 to 4:05.
8:05 to 4.
Correct.
And
So
what's-
they have about 25 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes maybe, but we usually fill that with data team meetings, SAP meetings, staff meetings, whatever it might be. And then the
So
kids
they
are
only
there.
have their 40-minute prep.
They have
a
their
day
40-minute prep and their
That's it.
30-minute lunch, and that's what they have. And so it is,
That's packed.
It's a tight schedule.
it's a tight schedule. It's efficient
Yeah.
when you're looking at it as far as systems are concerned, but at the same time, when we look for professional development and for growth, like we only have those Act 80 days. So we're looking at different ways we can create time. And like Aaron's solution is one. We have that other contractual day that we try to use for parent engagement. We might be able to repurpose some of that time for data team meetings so that they have that time in the morning free. We're going to come up with different ideas, and we're just going to keep the conversation going and make sure that they have part in this ownership of this process. That's the goal. So I think it was pretty positive. You want to say something?
Yeah, just Eisenhower is on a different schedule because of our situation at junior high now. The kids start coming at 8:15 and they leave, the kids, our day starts about 8:30 then. And then we have that time at the end of the day from about 3:35 to 4:05. And having done both things, I find it far more productive having it at the end of the day than the beginning of the day. Because people are ready to do meetings or something like that, because the kids they've gone home, that kind of stuff. So when we look at redesigning, our building and our schedule at our building, I would like to look at keeping that as our schedule at least starting and I've not gotten any really pushback from parents about being too early or anything like that, over the last 2.5 to 3 years that we've been doing it, so.
I think the new transportation arrangements, having designated buses at each school and not having to, for a couple of years there, East Pike bus, half were starting in East Pike, half were starting in Horace Mann, and that really created a 30, 45 minute sometimes dismissal process.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, I see East Pikes every single day. And I don't see what's happening in the classroom, but actually loading the kids on the bus now is a matter of 10 minutes at the most.
Wow.
And they're out
Used to
because
be a half hour.
yes, and I think that has kind of been a change for East Pike this year. So that additional time, which is, I think, we as administration have seen as very beneficial time, has now put kids in front of the teachers longer. Because, and they were always there. It's just now it's
Right.
teaching time instead of half hour, 45 minutes of dismissal time.
Right.
Are you finding the kids doing better starting a little earlier? Or not really?
I
because
don't
it's-
notice a difference, and I mean, they come in, the 4th and 5th graders are coming in pretty much the same. I mean, 8:30 is when we do the cutoff, then from 8:30 to 8:45, we have that's when they're getting their breakfast and getting to their rooms and lockers and all that kind of stuff. We get the kind of have a more junior high / Eisenhower kind of schedule kind of thing because of the lockers and things like that we have to utilize. And then the teachers start instruction right around 8:45. And that's our first 90-minute block, and we have to have our blocks back to back right now because of the schedule and the specials and the lunch and everything that we have to do. And the kids, the scores haven't changed that much from what we had before, those kinds of things, so.
I was just asking because I know they say that the kids, if the younger kids started later or early, they were saying about switching the start times for elementary school kids and the senior high kids differently because
There's been some research that says that we start too early for high school kids, but then we always run into sports at the end, so it's
that was just the
double-edged
reason why I
sword.
asked about that.
Yeah.
Also, that kind of segues into an idea I had, and I spoke with Justin about it last week, which was having a special needs parent support group, advisory group for the school, where they could, they could talk back and forth with Justin and you about things that they see might need help with at the school, and that way you guys could give them more of a casual, well, this is why we don't do it this way, but we could try and do it this way kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that way also they get support from one another if they need it during the years, because as a special needs parent, it's kind of, you get sort of insulated sometimes. And I think that might be something you might want to look into.
That's a great idea. We could, even like an online community
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing might be good. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. And
You don't want to do that online.
no,
No.
because it's in writing.
No, I was gonna
Well,
say, it's
because
not another
also
Facebook
announce-
group for people that,
It's just going to turn into a complaining session.
Yeah. Well, we'll look into it anyway.
Yeah, if
People
they come,
treat
they
people
like to
different if you're not
complain
face to face.
when they're not face to face.
But
When they're
Facebook
face to
gangsters.
face, you're gonna get more.
We always
Yeah.
call them Facebook gangsters when I was a principal.
because it's a lot easier to troll somebody if you don't see their reaction to what you're saying.
No doubt. But yeah, we're definitely interested in talking to people. I mean, and that's another thing that I didn't put on here, but in that same train of thought, Jared and I also started making standing meetings with the ASME group as well. So we're going to have the feedback loop with the teachers. We're going to have a feedback loop with the ASME group on a monthly basis, right? So, so those lines of communication are being more open, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully, it improves the culture and gives everybody that sense that they belong and have a seat at the table.
Sounds wonderful.
Mm.
And the last thing is the school doing okay with the repercussions from what happened at Chevy?
We haven't had any problem. We had the counselors and the school psychs on alert. We didn't get a whole lot. I didn't get any feedback that they were really needed,
Okay.
which is good. I think it's because most of the players in that situation were from out of town.
Right.
I don't think there was any real strong connection to Indiana directly. Most of them were from, Waynesboro or Waynesburg University or something. So I don't think that there were any direct connections to our families. And if there were, it was very limited.
I was just
So-
thinking because I'd heard of some racial incidents happening.
We have, and I did talk to Doug Johnson and Wade about some of that. They did have another, a couple of instances of, racially inappropriate words being used, and they have addressed that and will continue to address that. But I don't know that that's directly correlated to that incident or not. I think it's, something that we've struggled with here for a long time, and, we'll continue to fight.
Yep, we have to we always have to keep an eye out for that stuff.
Absolutely.
I think that is about it for my reading.
Two quick things.
Go.
One is something going back to the reviews of one another.
Mhm.
There's a thing called a 360 degree where and it's anonymous. You can do it
That's
anonymously.
what I shared. I shared it with him.
Yeah.
I had mine.
So you go up and down, sideways, and everything else. When it's anonymous, there's some truthful, blunt
Well, that's what I
stuff,
think
and you
we're
take
gonna
that
try.
with a grain of salt.
Yeah, we're gonna try it.
Then the other thing, years ago, and I don't know if Tom or Ron or whatever, there was a little bit of discussion about the foundation of the Alleghenies,
Have a lot of discussion about it.
but we really never got much detail. I thought we did have some individual come in and talk to us one time.
The foundation of the Alleghenies is just the holding company.
Right.
Okay, basically, it's just we're an
Right.
account in there.
But it may help other board members as new board members come on.
We can have
Yeah, I think we,
Katrina, is her name?
Yeah.
I think we can have Katrina come in and brief the new board for sure. But Mr. Harley's exactly right. They're a company that takes our money. They work with an outside, I can't remember the name of that company, but they invest our money. And they've done a very nice job. We went and looked at the returns that we were getting. They make a lot of, they make a lot of money. So if we have more money in there, we make a lot more money. The money that we have in there now goes to fund our dual enrollment programs, because there's a law that says that if they're in dual enrollment programs, you either have to pay for it or you have to count them against your ADM. Like they don't count for you anymore. So we would lose funding, which is also something that is in Harrisburg right now being debated with this new funding situation. But so right now that's what that money goes to. So it's pretty much, it comes in through donations and it goes back out. So we don't have a big nest egg that's really earning us any money. So that's
Right now, is there a directorship of that? Like, who runs the foundation?
no.
Like, who's in control of
Yeah,
it?
who runs the Indiana Foundation?
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. And
No.
basically, nobody.
nobody. We
Okay,
Jared.
Nobody's going out. No.
The Jared
You are
Foundation.
not going out and soliciting funds at every
No.
reunion. You're not raising things. That's what's missing in this. Okay, the financial side of this is any money we put in, it goes into the Allegheny Foundation,
Mhm.
because we don't have to deal with setting up all that noise. Okay, so what's missing is the generating and asking the people for money and developing it.
And I have to tell you, I've worked,
delegating where it goes to, on the back end.
Well, even that. Okay,
Right.
okay.
that we do control, like that we can say what the money raised goes for. I think with the community foundation, to me,
But if you came to my alumni group and said raising money, and the alumni group says it's only going to go to scholarships
We
for
do
art
that.
students, then that's what money goes to.
we can do that through the community foundation.
Right, but there's nobody doing it.
well, that's just
I'm
it.
not arguing that, sir. What I'm saying is what the community foundation does good for us is make sure that we are a bylaw, community, like a 501(c) that is operating under the law of the IRS and everything, all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Then we need people outside of that to kind of do the fundraising part of it, to direct the money where it needs to go. And we can still do that without having to have the board of directors set up and all that kind of formal stuff, minutes and all that kind of
But a
stuff.
board of directors and a group that does that. Okay, when I went to my 50th reunion this last summer, there was a person who showed up from the foundation and told us about all the good things the foundation was doing. And so they were talking to 150 people, okay, and they got a scholarship out of that 30-minute conversation. They got a scholarship, out of that group of alumni, the ancient people, me. They raise enough money to have an endowed scholarship, okay, But it required somebody who was 44 that graduated from Morgantown and still lived in Morgantown to show up, take us on a tour, and bond with us. Okay, and ask. I mean, I'm just stunned that we don't ask.
Well, and that's just it. And I have to be honest with you. My goal is to start with this committee with some well-intended volunteers who are going to hit the pavement. But then eventually I'd like to get enough in there that we could actually have someone hired to do that. Because when I worked for the Boy Scouts, they had a full-time fundraising person. That's all that person did was run foundation events. When I worked at Hollidaysburg, they had a person who that's what they did was they ran the foundation. And, that's what their job was, is they just raised money. So because it's such a big job,
In
or
Morgantown,
could grow to be.
in Morgantown, it was a booster. It was somebody who loved the school and wanted to do it. And it was a small group. Okay, so we need to tag into somebody like that. Okay, whether it be a board member, it could be an ex-board member,
Mhm. I agree.
but
So,
it has to happen. And it won't grow any unless somebody like that gets in that chair.
correct. I agree, 100%. We'll start small. We'll start there, and we'll get it rolling as quickly as possible.
Sorry to end your meeting.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking. It's
Okay.
hilarious.
Is that
Can I
That's
put one
it.
plug in for outreach for the Excellence in Ed Foundation? I'm on that board as well. And we just started a fundraiser. It supports our after-school programs in this district and all the districts within the Aaron Intermediate Unit. And we have a GoFundMe page out now that we're trying to raise about $7,500 addition to what we got in the grant, because we're finding just like for snacks for the kids and some things that we don't have enough money through the grant we're trying to raise money for. So if anybody, I can send the link, or it's on GoFundMe.
Thank you for,
Send it on.
because there's also a library fundraiser this Friday in the
Oh.
Stacks. We're, raising money for more books and programs and everything. It's going to have a magician and live music, and come on down.
If they send those kinds of things, if you get those people to send them to me, I can put them on the website, I can put them on the news, I can put them on our social media.
Okay,
Like,
right
I
here.
can help communicate that stuff,
So what was the event at the high school on Saturday? There's something about band.
Band Fest. Yeah, we did have the annual Band Fest. I was there. It was,
I had it in my phone, but I had 8:00 in the morning and I didn't think that was right. So I started looking at the website, trying to find
yeah, it was
Not
not, yeah, I
there.
don't think it was on the website. Yeah,
why.
that's a good question.
Thank you.
Most of the,
I even went to click all events and
Nothing.
I complain about the sports not being on, but almost none of the musicals and the dramas,
there's nothing on there.
they don't show up. And we'll find out about them, the week after they show.
When it's in the paper.
Yeah, but.
If
Or you
but
hear
it's
about it,
on
like
the website.
I knew that, somebody told me because it was on my phone. But then I started trying to find it and I couldn't find it. I Googled it, I found 2017, 2021, all these things, and it was,
Fast.
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular event, but it's also
Yep.
well
I
publicized.
would
Yeah.
have,
And
I
I
would have
believe they
gone.
charge,
but-
I believe they charge money at the
Yeah.
door. And every school in the county is in it, and you can't find any information unless you happen to read the paper that day.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'll fix that. We'll get people, we'll improve there.
Yeah, I have the same complaint about the plays and musicals.
I'm actually, when you said that, I brought up the website to see if there were shows on the thing, and they are not updated, so we're gonna.
They know today when the dates of these shows are gonna be.
Mhm.
But also you have all the choirs coming into Christmas. I'm sure they're doing concerts.
Yep.
The auditorium holds 600 people.
Yeah,
At $8 a piece, you can buy a lot of music for that. But
there's-
if they don't tell anybody, you get
right.
it's frustrating.
I mean, but then again, it's always been a problem with that calendar. I mean,
The tennis.
there'd be things going on at junior high and
Always last year. I've seen it.
can't find out.
Yeah, not just senior high, junior high.
I've been
Yeah,
saying it,
I'm
but it was
absolutely
just
correct.
But they made it pretty far. That's pretty
All right.
good.
So,
I think we've delved down the rabbit hole quite a bit, and I don't want Terry to start making a voodoo doll of me yet. So, I'd like to move that we close the meeting for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
It would have been his fault.